Good evening, namaste, welcome to This Happy Guru. Talking to you today about one of my favourite subjects, self-love. I have never really been big on self-love, I wouldn't have said, but I've basically learned how important it is over about the last 8 or 9 years. And it's something that I don't feel like any of us are really encouraged to do for ourselves. In fact, if you take a little bit of time for yourself, sometimes you can be called selfish, or you can feel like you're selfish, that you should be putting other people in front of your own needs. And so I wanted to speak to you today about really how important it is to put yourself first, the sort of benefits that you can get both mentally and physically, spiritually from putting yourself first, and how that then permeates out into the rest of the world, and how you can influence other people with a kind of more positive attitude because you've learned to accept and love and tolerate and really feel empathy and compassion towards not only other people but towards yourself. And this is really quite an interesting one. Like, when you talk about compassion, if you are taught about compassion when you're growing up, hopefully you are, but when you're taught about compassion, when you talk about empathy, it's often projecting it out to other people. You're often taught by your parents or by the people in school or educational system that you grow up through that, you know, you need to kind of put yourself in other people's positions, to think about others before yourself, to really be able to kind of develop an empathetic thing, your feelings. You're putting yourself in that person's emotional self and trying to understand how it is they might be feeling as well. These are all kind of deep projections of yourself into somebody else's life. But we're never really taught to be compassionate towards ourselves, to really think about ourselves. You know, like I certainly wasn't. Growing up, it was very much really about other people. You know, it was about the kind of the front that you might put onto other people, make sure you're well turned out, that you're clean, that you're well dressed, you know, then other people won't judge you harshly. You know, they'll look at you and they'll think that you're a nice person because of the way you're presented. And it almost feels to me like emotionally and spiritually as well, we've been asked to do the same thing over time. We've been asked to put ourselves out there. If you put on the front of being a together person, somebody who's successful, somebody who is managing their life, successfully, and someone who is doing really, really well in the perception of other people of their lives, then you must have, that's it, you've nailed it. You must have all your boxes ticked. That must be it. You must be happy. But of course, the reality is that it's what's going on behind the closed doors that is the life that you're living, that is the life that you're experiencing. And often those closed doors can be the ones that you put up to the rest of the world, not the physical closed doors of just coming into the house and being who you are with your family or on your own, you know, with just the four walls as your confinement, if you like, as the surround, the security around you, so that you can kind of let go. And that's kind of half the point as well, is that, you know, really, if you're living a completely false life or a fake life, or one that you feel like you have to generate every day to be somebody who other people will respect, or who they find or they think is successful, or they can relate to because they feel like you have the same kind of ethos in life and you're going through life succeeding and acquiring, then, you know, you're going to find it really, really hard to keep that front up. And this is not, again, not rocket science. Everything that I'm saying has been proven by statistics over and over again, unfortunately. What isn't said enough, I don't think, is the power that you have to be able to turn that all around and actually make it genuinely about you and your successes and everything that you're good at doing, because it comes authentically from you. The first thing you've got to be able to do to be able to live authentically and to be able to come out to the world as the real person that you are, not the one who, you know, can afford all the labels, drives the nice car, owns the big house, is dripping in jewels, has a beautiful skin, has beautiful hair, you know, has the muscles, whatever it is that you feel like you need to look like to be an accepted and respected person in this world. from wherever you come from, whatever your background, whatever that looks like to you, it's really, really hard to be authentic when you're trying to be somebody else. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, is you're always going to be the person that you are. So it doesn't really matter whether you put on the nails, you do the hair, you put on your face and you dress the part. If you know, have, for example, never put into your academic life or anything like that, and you kind of are just holding yourself together just through the tidbits that other people give you, you're never going to be able to grow past that. You're never going to be able to develop as a person. It's equally the same, for example, like for me, I'd speak from personal experience. When I was kind of about 21, I went traveling, and before we went, I spent a lot of time thinking about the clothes I wanted to take, thinking about, all the things that I was going to need to be traveling, but also really how I needed to look as a traveler. So this was kind of, I had no experience before of I went to Asia. I had no experience of Asia before. I had no idea really of the heat that I was going to experience, or the, the lifestyle that I was going to end up living traveling. And I was gone for 2 years, and I went with, I think it was like £3,500 in my back pocket, and I was gone for 2 years. So I was living really on a shoestring. And one of the kind of the images that it was kind of obvious, or it became obvious to me, was being cultivated through traveling at that time, was of this kind of dirty hippie, when was the last time you washed, holes in the clothes, I'm really on a shoestring kind of look. And as a naive young adult, thrown out, kind of having thrown herself out into the world, I really began to look at other people and try to emulate what it was that they were doing so that I would fit in. We do this all through our lives, like when you go to school, same thing. Okay, you're given a uniform, therefore you fit in. And then it's just about cultivating the rest of yourself to be able to fit in properly. The uniform is like the first part. It's almost like you're guided into this commitment to become one of the mass. One of the people who will just conform and tick all the boxes and do as they're told and move forward like that. That for me is the significance of a uniform, really going into school. It takes away your personal identity. One of the things that you probably have spent some time trying to cultivate over your youth. It takes that away. Before you even start, you all look the same. Then it's just about trying to allow your own unique self to shine through in spite of all that stuff. And it's at that stage when you start getting told, actually that's not acceptable, or the way you do that isn't right, or if you can, you can't wear it like that, you've got to wear it like this, you can't have your hair like that, you need it like this. All the rules begin to come into place, and you begin to get shaped by the institution to become something that they feel accurately represents the look, this basically a sales pitch to be able to get other people to come, the other children to be able to come to their school. Likewise, when you go into like the arena of work, everybody going into town, going to work in insurance or banking, what these people need to look like as much as they do. For their work, they need to look smart, they need to look presentable, they need to look successful, they need to look as though they can take responsibility. And through the development of culture and society, we've kind of almost placed these men and women in suits, in power heels, in the Rolex watches, in the fast cars, in the kind of live fast, die young kind of genre of high-end living. You earn a lot of money from investment banking and banking. You can earn a lot of money from insurance and those sort of genres of work. But it comes at a price. It comes at this putting you in a box price. That's what you're going to look like. That's what you need to be. Doesn't mean to say that you are any worse off than anybody else in that respect. We all do it. Everybody does it. Whatever line of work you go into, there's a general idea of what you need to look like, of what you need to turn up to work in. You can work in a design team and you can feel like, okay, I'm allowed to wear whatever I want, but I'm in a design team, so I need to look a little bit edgy. I need to look a little bit like I've got my finger on the pulse. My husband's in fashion. and he works like as a middleman between like fabric buyers and the people that produce the fabric. And being in that position, he needs to know, he needs to look, sorry, as though he knows, you know, where he's coming from. He needs to have his finger on the pulse of what's next, what's fashionable, what's coming in, what the trends are going to be. He needs to have that look about him when he goes into an office and he sits down with people and he talks to them, that, you know, he's on top of it as much as they are, that they can trust him to have a know, like an internal knowing or a knowledge of what it is that, you know, he's coming to say, he's coming to be a part of. They need to see that in him to be able to relate. And that's the other thing as well. You know, in our minds, we've all kind of been conditioned to believe that, you know, we're like-minded to other people. And we are, to a certain extent. You know, we are like-minded in the fact that we will be able to have similar talents, similar interests. There are things that we will be able to kind of find in other people that we resonate with, you know, similar thought processes, the way we try to live our lives, the way we eat, the exercise that we do, all these sorts of things, any creative stuff that you like to explore, you're going to find like-minded people in that sense. But there's going to be nobody exactly like you. And I think that's kind of almost the thing that is so important to learn. And so important, I feel, that we should be teaching our kids. Because at the end of the day, no matter what likenesses you have with other people, no matter what parallels you can draw from your life with somebody else's, you're still the only person exactly like you on this world at this time right now. And that in itself is something to really give yourself a pat on the back about and say, oh, you know, okay, get me. You know, and we should all be doing that. But instead, we're kind of taken up with the idea of projecting out a way of being that is acceptable to other people. And it comes down to our fear of not being accepted, our fear of being ousted from our communities, our fear of not being good enough to be accepted and loved for who we genuinely are, hand on heart, hand on soul. This is who we are. And so what I've been doing with a lot of my clients recently is working on developing this. Because, like I say, we're not taught it in schools. We're not really encouraged so much even at home to just be genuinely, authentically 100% who you are. You know, it's quite hard for parents, I think, because we're all so protective. Nobody wants to see their little schmoopy getting bullied. Nobody wants to see anybody being picked on. Nobody wants to see anyone being isolated. When you see this out in the world or on a video or on a movie or something like that, you empathize with that character. You can feel from one of the deepest parts of your soul that that isn't a nice thing to be experiencing, that that's not something that you want for anybody that you love. And so I think one of the ways of counterbalancing that, one of the ways of counteracting that, and it's literally turning it on its head, is by being 100% authentically you. But to be able to be 100% authentically you, you need to be able to love and accept yourself enough to be able to shine, to be able to really put all your faith in who you are and the things that you like to do and the way you like to express yourself and the development of that throughout life. Because that's also the thing. Every day is different and you're growing throughout every day. So to keep this kind of facade around you the whole time and not allow that to grow is detrimental to your very nature, as far as I can see. So one of the things that I talk about when I talk about self-love is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and truly love every part about you. Now, this is not the easiest thing to do. You know, I think generally, and I know certainly as a woman, it's very easy to make critical comments about the person that you are when you look in the mirror. There's always something, right? There's always something that you can pick up on. It's even depressing saying that because it's actually the truth. I don't know very many people in my life who can even say that there are less than 5 things about themselves that they don't like. Okay? Most people can count more than 5 things about themselves that they don't like. And one of the things that got me thinking about, you know, how critical we are of one another is not only the genres that we are exposed to through media and through fashion and our society, about what we should look like, how we should act, the person that we should present out to the world, but also how it is that we feel about ourselves, having lived the life that we've lived. What I mean by that is, if you were born into your body and you begin to express something straight away, something, say, for example, like for me, for example, singing, something that I always can remember having done, right from being a little dot. I can remember sort of not necessarily singing words, singing a full song, nothing like that, but just loving music, loving sound, loving to make my own and create my own music with my voice, with my hands, with my whistling, with, any part of me that could kind of carry a tune. And one of the things that I always used to explore when I was little was being able to make different sounds with my voice, being able to see how high I could go, how low I could go, whether I could dip and turn my vocal cords to be able to carry a warbly note, for example, or to be able to go from a very low note to a very high note, or vice versa, quite quickly. And I used to play around a lot with that in my bedroom, just playing outside with my dolls, with my toys, whatever it was that I was playing with. I was kind of always like humming, singing, whistling, making a noise like that. But as I got older, it became something that I would only do in certain places. And this I recognized only a couple of weeks ago when I was meditating and I was working on like my inner child. So working on my inner child for me is going back into when like I was a young me. My earliest recollection, I think, are about 3 or 4 years old. My sister was born when I was about 3.5, and I can vaguely remember her being a baby, being around as a baby, and my mum carrying her and lying down with her on the floor, and I can vaguely have these recollections. So that's about my earliest memory. And then as I was going through my meditation and thinking back, trying to bring myself through my own history, I realized that there was a time when suddenly I stopped singing and whistling and humming and being vocally creative in public. And it became more about where I felt free enough to be able to do it. And those were the words that came to me. It's like, where did I feel free enough to be able to vocalize this feeling of, I suppose, like happiness and, joy, just happiness of being where I was right then, and joy through song and through music, and being able to recreate that with my body, not just hear it, with my ears, but be able to recreate that with my body. And I realized that suddenly, because of something, I had begun to only sing really in the car when my dad put music on, and I could sing along with that, and I could sing quite quietly and not have too much focus on myself. Or I would sing in my room, or I would sing when I was completely alone in the house, and like maybe doing some chores or something like that. Or even like when I was really like went through a stage of wanting to be a real pop star, and so then I would dance around the room with like a hairbrush, typical teen Madonna craze, dancing around the room with my hairbrush, practicing my dance moves, letting it all go, you know. But I realized that I'd stopped doing that. As free as I had been, I'd begun to close it in. I'd begun to refine it. There were times when I was able to be that free and times when it was not acceptable. And I wondered exactly what it was that had made me realize that, or been the catalyst for that change in behavior. And it got me thinking about some of the comments that were made to me as I was growing up, and when exactly age-wise that would have probably taken place. In that sense, what was going on with me at that age? What was I experiencing? And I realized that a lot of it became just before we moved to secondary school. It was really from about year 3 in middle school, which I kind of remember suddenly being very self-aware. In the 3rd year of middle school, I began to develop through puberty, and I was one of the first girls there to have a bra. And so I wore my bra with pride for about the first 20 minutes of going to school. I thought, oh, I'm developing. And then came the pinging of the bra strap and the making, funny comments and all the kind of the lewd behavior of young boys and some of the catty comments of young girls. And I began to feel very, very self-conscious, very self-aware, um, and obviously didn't feel that that was a nice experience. And it affected everything about me. It affected the way I carried myself. Suddenly went from standing up straight to slumping in, rounding my shoulders in, and actually beginning to cover my newly developing body. Um, I can remember that I began to sing more quietly, that everything began to get more quiet as far as I was concerned. And I've never been a particularly quiet person, so that was quite alien for me. And yet it was something that I did myself. You know, I don't honestly remember anybody saying to me, you should be like this, don't show that. But there were a lot of comments that probably resonated, well, I think resonated deeply within my mind and made me feel like to stand up tall and to have these new breasts was kind of demonstrating some overt sexuality that wasn't welcomed. To be singing and creating this kind of noise wasn't appreciated by everybody because other people were trying to work. They were trying to have some quiet time. You know, they didn't want to listen to me warbling away. You know, whatever kind of their idea of music and singing was, it wasn't aligned with mine at that time. And I feel that that was the time when I really began to take a lot more notice of what other people were saying to me, and about me, and how that made me feel and how I would react and respond accordingly because of those comments. And so going back again through my meditation, started thinking, okay, you know, so yeah, that was probably when that all sort of started. And then what was my reaction to that? What were other people's reactions to that? And what happened when other people started to develop? You know, what happened then? Why did I not then gain confidence and begin to come out of myself a little bit more again? Why did I not begin to strike out and really be proud of my developing body again when other people were beginning to wear bras and beginning to develop and that sort of thing? And then I realized that the shift in focus had gone from the developing body through to the developing face. And it was beginning to become for me about what you looked like. So it had gone, my first instance from that was become from puberty. The second instance was becoming what I looked like. Did I have the hair? Did I have the face? Did I have the height? Did I have the clothes? Did I have, you know, the mum and dad look as well? I remember that being kind of one of the things in adolescence was, you know, did your mum and dad fit the bill? You know, were they trendy, your mum and dad? Were they, you know, were they well turned out? Were they kind of particularly striking in one way, or were they the opposite of all of that? Or were they, you know, kind of people who were straight from the land? You know, we lived in a village, and there was, so there's a lot of people farming. Farmers around near us. So did they come from that sort of a background? You know, what was their background? Suddenly that became very, very important. And I remember sort of chortling out very proudly that, you know, no, my mum and dad were both teachers. And, you know, kind of having that thrown back in my face because, of course, at school, you know, teachers aren't the trendiest. And everybody's kind of like, oh, God, either, I always remember feeling either, oh, that's a nightmare. Imagine having teachers as parents, or, oh, God, so you're a real stiff. You know, you're really straight. Your mum and dad are teachers. I bet you're a real goody two-shoes, but you're really, really clever. You know, none of those things that really had no impact on who I was, but all of those things that people were judging me on already. And it made me change who I am, who I was, and how I presented myself. And that was quite an important thing, I think, for me at that time. And it was certainly the foundation for going on through the rest of my puberty, through the rest of high school and into early adulthood. And certainly still was this catalyst to me when I went traveling, beginning to think about the fact that what I looked like was actually more important than the technical stuff of traveling, you know, having clothes that wash and dry quickly and easily, and that will take a lot of wear. Making sure that you haven't got the kind of the trendiest bikini, because actually when you're jumping off of a boat or you're kayaking, something like that, you don't want to be losing half a boob because you've decided to go small and what you thought was kind of sexy at the time, you know. And I think that kind of that idea that I needed to be something, I needed to emulate someone. I needed to look the part, was something that was instilled into me as early as in year 3 in middle school. Or yeah, in middle school it was for me. In junior school maybe now. My daughter's in junior school. She's in year 4 and she's 8. She's going to be 9 shortly. So we're talking around the sort of 7 mark, around the set like 6, 7, 8 age of finally becoming aware of your body and of an idea of what you should look like to be accepted. So what I want to do really is take you back to that stage when you were around 7, 8, you know, maybe even as young as 6, but around 7 or 8, and ask you to think about what it was then that you found to be the most pressure on you as a person. What it was that you recognize now was perhaps a catalyst for change for you around that age. It's one of those things that you begin to think back and you begin to think, okay, what was I doing? Usually it's quite easy when you can think of kind of milestones in your life. So for example, you know, like I say, when I was 3.5, my sister was born. When I was 9, 9, we moved. You know, those sorts of things, like times in your life when it's easy to kind of go back onto your timeline and be like, that's what I was doing then. Go back and see after the program, if you can remember what it was around that time that changed you and asked you to conform, because that's the key to beginning your self-love journey. As far as I'm concerned, it's going back to that point of confirmation, of being able to conform, of wanting to be the same as everybody else, and recognizing almost what you had before that wasn't then acceptable. Because that's a part of you that you've probably pushed down and pushed away, thinking it's not good enough. It won't serve me in this life. You know, no one's going to accept that. No one's going to love me for being that person. And so you've sort of pushed it to the back of your psyche, and yet it's something that you brought forward and through you from birth. This is one of the initial seeds of your actual being, your actual soul was one of these things. And some point in your life, you're going to want to reconnect with that, because at some point in your life, you will get to the point where you don't care anymore about what people say and what people think. Hopefully you're already there, right? But if not, at some point you will see the frivolity of it all. You know, you will see why it's just not important, and also how detrimental it can be to you and your sense of self-expression. There are 7.7, I think, the last count, billion people on this planet. You're one of them, and you've brought in all these amazing gifts and talents and abilities to be able to take you through your life. You know, that's something to be recognized. That's something to be loved, if nothing else. Just the fact that you're completely unique, that this world wouldn't be this world without you in it, because you are a tiny little part of the massive machine that is this universe, but you're essential, you're needed. And it's kind of getting your head around that and really accepting that can begin to generate a feeling of self-belief, of self-determination, of wanting to shine this light out, actually wanting to discover what it was that you were put on this earth to do. And not everybody's going to be a nuclear scientist or physicist or genius or, you know, the next, I don't know, great thing. Not everyone needs to be. Some people need to be that person. Some people need to be the inspiration. Some people do. Other people need to be working towards it all the time. They need to show and create development. They need to be an inspiration for those other people who are working through things all the time. Some people need to go through real pain and upset to feel the things that they need to feel in their lives. Some people need to live a carefree existence that shows and impresses on everybody else what freedom really can look like in a world that has become very, very, very far away from free. And I think it's important to be able to recognize everybody's role in this, everybody's role in this creation of the existence that we all are living, right? So what I wanted to do was start today with talking about how you can begin to recognize yourself and how you can begin on your self-love journey. because, not like I say, we haven't been taught to love ourselves. In fact, we've been taught the opposite. We've been taught to look at ourselves critically, and it gets you nowhere good. To look at yourself critically usually ends up with you feeling like you're not good enough, that you don't fit in, that you need to change things, and you working and putting all your efforts and all your energy into doing just that, into trying to change the person you are into something that you believe will become more acceptable and is better than you are. So I started writing out something for myself. I started along the lines of being obsessed with the things you love about yourself. So it's like, okay, Kirst, think about and obsess about the things that you love about yourself. So I've made a little list. You can do this at home as well. What I basically did was kind of make a little circle and just put all the different things around it that I love about myself. So I'm going to read some of the bits out to you, and I'm just going to kind of go forward and explain. Because one of the next stages after doing this is creating yourself like a life mood board, or a soul life circle, I call it, where you look at all the parts of your life. You look at the things that you want to improve, or to inspire yourself to live better in those parts of your life. And you then use imagery to recreate that joy, that excitement, that interest in that part of your life every day. So this is the first step to that, okay? And I'm talking about the things that I love about myself. So it might be, for example, for me, one of the first things that I love about myself is that I am essentially a happy person. You know, that means the world to me. I recognize that now, and I didn't for a very long time. I very much took for granted my internal happiness and my ability to kind of just smile and laugh at some of the tiniest little things in life. You know, I make myself laugh all through the day just from doing silly little things, but it makes me laugh. I literally will you know, giggle out to myself. And I didn't realize until I got depressed about 5-6 years ago how important that part of me really is for me. You know, I didn't have that for a long time, and I really felt lost without it. You know, I wasn't able to see the joy in the world around me for the first time ever. And it was a very lonely experience, not being able to really find joy in the little things. You know, I was looking for them then in the big things and outside of myself, and looking for them from other people, and then getting really disappointed that other people weren't producing for me. You know, other people's happiness wasn't making me happy particularly. I couldn't relate to it. I couldn't involve myself in it because I wasn't happy. And that was a real big eye-opener for me. And like I say, I'd taken my internal happiness, this ability I've always had to just be able to laugh at silly little things that I do and that other people do, you know. And often all through my life people said, "What are you laughing at?" I'm just like, "Oh, nothing, it's just the way you did this, or it's just the way you did that." Or it's just, I just felt like I got a vision. And you know, it's those little things that keep me happy, and I will never take that for granted again, not having since lost it and then refound it again. So that's one thing I like about myself, my ability to be able to laugh at the tiniest little things and keep myself upbeat and happy throughout the day. One of the other things that I love about myself is my ability, and in fact my love of love, my ability to love deeply in every relationship that I have. I am very much a throw your heart and soul into it type person. Whether it be into my relationships, like my intimate relationships with my partner, into relationships with my friends, into relationships with my family. I love to be around people. I love to love people. I want to be there for them. I want to be in their lives. Something that I found really hard to deal with since coming back from Thailand to England is how everybody's life now is lived via a smartphone or a computer. That to me seems really alien. I'm like, you know, again, I was kind of brought up with the generation with the British Telecom ads saying, you know, it's good to talk, and wholly embracing that idea. You know, wholly embracing communication, being one-to-one, hearing somebody's voice, listening to them. Again, that kind of that song in someone's voice coming through to me, that noise. And really engaging that, feeling that vibration throughout my body, and loving through that, you know, through that communication. One of the things that, you know, this kind of throwing yourself into things, heart and soul, has taught me is that as hard as you throw yourself in is as hard as you can end up falling when things don't go quite so right in a relationship particularly. I've had a few instances like that when I've gotten myself involved very, very quickly, very thrown myself in, and it's come back to bite me on the bum really badly. Um, I've had a relationship with my son's biological father, which was emotionally and physically abusive. And I wouldn't let go of it because of this whole all heart in. I couldn't move myself away because I felt like, no, I'm committed. I'm in it now. This was even before I had my son. I'm in it now. I'm here. I can't let go of it. I don't, I wasn't even worried about being alone or anything like that. It was just the fact that I'd thrown myself in. I was committed. I'd made promises. I'd said that I loved them. It was all these things that didn't feel, if I walked away, I didn't feel like I'd be able to, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I'd be able to let go. I couldn't let go. I was finding it really, really hard. No matter what was said to me, no matter what was done to me, I was still finding a place in my heart where that love was, that hope was, that want for everything to be okay was. And so as much as I now still do love fully and completely and try to be as present as I possibly can in those lives that really, really matter to me, I also recognize that I need to kind of hold back, I suppose, just a little bit and look after myself primarily in my relationships, which takes us back to self-love. I love that myself naturally turns lemons into lemonade. I always look for the positive. So this is very typical of me. And I think, I've had friends say to me, oh my God, just don't turn it around. Don't turn it around. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Don't turn it around. Don't look for the good. And because I always do. There's always something. There's always, for me, there's always a way of being able to see things in a positive light, no matter what happens. The relationship I was just talking about, I could never hate that person, ever. Because at the end of the day, we had a very beautiful part to our relationship as well. And I had my son, which, I could never, ever regret. None of that relationship I really regret because I learned so much from it. I got hurt in it. I learned a lot of lessons that I think maybe I could have learned a different way, but that was the lesson that I was given. But it ultimately has made me a lot stronger to have gone through all that stuff. It's ultimately made me a lot more resilient as a person, and a lot more sure of myself in terms of my physical strength and what I can endure. I think growing up, we tend to kind of look after our children, mollycoddle them a little bit, wrap them a little bit in cotton wool. And certainly as a girl, I had never experienced any sort of physical pain until I was in this relationship. And, I might have got a slap around the legs from my mum. Certainly nothing ever from, either of my parents that warranted any real concern. And I feel like having gone through primary school and secondary school without any kind of fights or anything like that, I wasn't ready for any kind of physical aggression. I didn't know what it was. Like I'd had a dead arm and that was about it. I didn't know what it was to be punched in the face. I didn't know what it was to be kicked. I didn't know what it was to be strangled. I didn't know any of those things, fortunately, as a younger person. But what it did build me having to go through all those things was the resilience and the strength of body to know that I could protect myself and that I could hold myself in a certain way whereby I would be able to kind of recover out from these things if I needed to. I won't go too much into that. It's not really the direction I want to head today in today's talk, but it gave me a sense of self-awareness that I didn't have before, and that I am grateful for, because I know how tough I am and I know that I can take it now, and I know that should I ever be in that position again, I know exactly what to do and how to be able to respond. And so maybe that lesson was harsh, but it's certainly one that I've learned, thank goodness. I love my tolerance, my patience, and that part of me that always wants to breathe and let go. So I've developed more of this as I've gotten older, and certainly more of this since I've had children. But I've always been somebody who has been very much live and let live. I have been brought up with parents who encouraged us to talk to and integrate with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different countries. Um, Throughout my childhood, we were often brought into situations where I would need to kind of go and talk to adults that I wasn't familiar with, that I really had no common ground with, but that I needed to make sort of polite conversation. And it always ended up for me being a joy. It always ended up me talking to someone and finding out something amazing and being like, wow, that's cool, wicked. Didn't know so-and-so was like that, or I didn't know this country was like that, or that, you could even do these things, with practice or with science or with, through reading or whatever it was that I've been learning. Um, One of the things that I think I feel very grateful for in terms of my sense of tolerance is that I extend my want to not be judged out to everybody else. I don't want people to look at me and judge me. Therefore, I choose not to look at other people and judge them, or I try not to. Nobody's perfect. That's something that I'm always working on. That I don't want to be critical of other people. I want to understand where they're coming from. I want to be able to see how they're seeing what they're experiencing and understand why from there it is that they're making the choices that they're making or reacting the way that they're reacting. It's not always easy, but I do find this whole take a breath and let it go and then come back to it in your mind is very good for being able to do that. It's being able to really take a moment and be in the moment, not as the person that's being attacked or the person that's listening and thinking, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this, but just simply as an outsider, somebody who's looking in on the situation, recognizing what might be triggering me, recognizing what's triggering the other person in the conversation, and kind of coming to a nice area of acceptance within that sphere so that I'm able to understand why I'm being triggered by certain comments that they might be saying, for example, or why they're being triggered by the stuff that has incited this conversation. Then from tolerance comes acceptance, because once you recognize the feelings in somebody else, you can relay them with feelings that you have yourself. We all get triggered by things. We all get upset by things. We all feel as though we've, been hard done by or judged. And this is why I say I don't want to be judged by other people, because I don't feel it's a nice feeling. I've had people judge me to my face, behind my back, heard stuff, and had stuff relayed back to me. And it's always been hurtful, any which way. On some level, it's rejection and it's not nice. And I feel like, we don't need to do so much of that really. And so I'm always working on those sorts of things. Sometimes it's really, really hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard not to judge. I don't tend to judge on what people look like. I tend to judge more myself on the actions that people take within their lives. Why would you do that when you must understand that this would be the consequence? Why would you do that? I don't understand. Why, when you know that that's going to upset you, would you put yourself in that situation? Why would you try to emulate something that is so opposite to the real person that you are? Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in that position? Why would you put yourself in that firing line of disappointment? Why would you do that? Those are the sorts of judgments that I would make, like on people. So I'm still working through it. I'm still trying not to be judgmental. But I do love the fact that, I try to be, and I am quite a patient and tolerant person as well. So that helps me with the judgments. I try to sort of take a breath, be a little bit patient, and then go in from there. I love my dancing and singing side. My high vibe creates happiness, proves to me that I can do anything I want to do. Okay, so this is something that I'm still developing. When I was young, I used to dance around the house, as probably a million teenage girls did and still do, with a hairbrush, singing along to whatever pop song was on the radio, learning the words out of Smash Hits, a magazine that used to print all the words that went with all the songs that were popular at the time. And I dreamt of dancing and singing, as I grew older. My sister and I would make up routines for my mum and dad, and we would practice them all morning on Saturdays. And then by about 2 or 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, we'd be ready for the show, and we'd be inviting my mum and dad in, and they, bless them, would sit there and watch show after show after show, listening to us, like restopping and starting the records on the record player next to us, and diligently clapping us and cheering us at the end, loving everything that we did. And it's a part of myself that still brings me great joy, and I still do it now. So now, even though while I'm hoovering or something like that, cleaning the house, hoovering, I put my headphones in, I sing at the top of my voice, and when it gets to a bit when I can do a little dance, I'll use the hoover as my dance partner. I'm kind of dancing as I'm swinging off the doors, and I'll jump on the sofa and step off the sofa, kind of like, some kind of mad flash dance move. And I love all that. I love that about myself. I love the fact that I really don't care, and that I'll do it in front of my kids and my husband, and they'll roll their eyes and, sort of like inwardly groan, or outwardly groan sometimes, but inwardly groan, and just think, oh, there's mum being a bit cray-cray again. But I love it. I love doing it. I sing it out when I take the dog for a walk, when I'm running my dog. I'll stop if there's a good song on the radio, and I'll just walk and I'll just sing along to it and sing out into the universe. And have a little dance as I go. So I'm kind of like singing along to a bit of something, and there'll be my hands going and whatever it is that I'm doing. I am that weirdo that's walking through the field with the Rhodesian Ridgeback, having a little dance, having a little sing. You can probably hear the words on the wind, and see me kind of like strutting my body in a weird fashion. That's my dancing. I am that person. So I apologise for all the dog walkers around Chertsey Meads who might see me there. But that's who I am. That's one of the parts of me that I really, really love. And as embarrassing as it can be, when the postman's caught me and I've suddenly realised there's someone outside the front door because I've seen something through the glass, and he's clearly heard me belting out the most recent song that I've been singing from Spotify or on my CDs or something like that, and he's clearly heard me, and nothing needs to be said. I open the door with a big smile. He says, "Morning, love," and so I sign the package, and that's it, job done. He'd never say a word, bless him. But it's kind of just that thing of just accepting somebody for who they are as well, that I kind of love about my postman. I love how I create myself every day through clothes, shoes, my tattoos, through my bags, music I listen to, what I'm channeling that day. So I don't know if anybody else feels like they consciously create the exterior persona that they present to the world every day. I have done this forever, it feels like, and not with the latest fashions in mind. I accepted a long time ago that I am not any sort of model, that I need to emulate any sort of model. It's more about me feeling comfortable in who I am. And one of the things that I started to do when I was a teenager was begin to express myself through different looks. I went through a stage of having really, really short hair. I kind of wanted to be a bit of a tomboy, so everything I was wearing was trousers, shirts, and had really, really short hair. Then I went through a stage of wanting to kind of be a little bit more like teeny bopper, I suppose. So I had my short hair was shorter than it is now to about there, and I would dress in all kinds of crazy clothes. Then I went through my indie stage, just dressing in boys' clothes again, and just kind of like hanging out with everything, just big trainers, big jeans, big tops, everything was oversized, everything was massive, and just really beginning to kind of look more slobby than I'd looked beforehand. And then I think after the indie stage, I began to try and find my own way with what actually complemented my body. Before then, I was just really following trends that were kind of coming along. And then I began to think, actually, what is it that suits me? Because that whole drapey, big jeans, big trainers, big oversized thing just doesn't suit me. I'm 5'1.8" I'm a small person. To have all that clothing and all that cloth shrouding me, I just look like, a child lost in an adult's clothes. That was basically kind of what I look back and I see myself in the pictures now. It's just like, oh God, it's just draping off of me. There was no shape, there was no definition, there was nothing. And so, yeah, when I decided that I was about 14, 15, that I needed to start really thinking about what it is that I wanted to wear and the looks that I was going for, and really what clothes suited my shape and suited who I wanted to be. Jeans were never an option for me. I have always had quite a curvaceous behind, and the jeans of the 80s and 90s were not acceptant of a curvaceous behind. You know, I had to buy jeans that were huge for me, or I had to belt them right in at the waist, or I had to buy them that were too tight and then belt them in at the waist. Something had to give somewhere along the line. You know, there wasn't the stretch that there is in jeans now. Fashion's come a long way in terms of the denim look, in fact. So something that I began to do then was actively create the person that I was going to be that day. And that always started with the music that I listened to. So I would turn on the music and I would kind of feel how I was feeling that day, dance along to the music that I was dancing to, if I was happy, if I was upbeat. And then it would usually be quite bright clothing, quite light clothing, different colored t-shirts, different colored jeans, bright blue trousers. I remember having like a sort of clowny shirt, like a patterned shirt that I would wear alongside it, and everything was quite bright and out there. And then I began to feel like perhaps the boy look wasn't serving me quite so well. Well, you know, once I started getting interested in boys, that became a little bit more obvious. And I began to create myself to show off some of the better parts of myself, right? So we all do this. So I would begin to accentuate some of the things that I thought were going to be more attractive to other people, like my boobs, for example, and hide some of the things that I didn't feel were quite so attractive, like my bum, like my waist and my stomach. You know, hide all those sorts of things because they weren't completely flat, didn't ever have that washboard stomach that was populated so much in the 90s and the late 80s, early 90s, and everything was about being this kind of waif-like figure. And so I began to create daily my look, and I began to get bespoke items like some cool little bag, or a hat, or some glasses, something like that. I began to wear fingerless gloves alongside kind of training outfits like Adidas stuff and those sorts of things. They're going to kind of mix and match the looks and go out like that. I would never have said that I was a trendsetter, but it was all about creating my look for me that day. And I still do that now. I've never really been one to follow a trend, to follow the fashions of the time. I always try and find something that resonates with me and who I am and just wear that. So recently, over the last few years, there's been a lot of really bright, beautiful colours in the shops. And those are the sort of colours that I will go for. I don't go for the trendy floral shirt because floral just has never been and will never be me. I don't tend to go for the starchy kind of white shirt, blue jeans look with the like loafers and stuff. Again, it's just not me. I'll kind of throw on a pair of flats, no worries, but the jeans have got to be turned up edgy, a bit more capri length. I can't go for a longer ankle skimming skinny jean anymore, or ever, because I'm just not built that shape. So that never came into my psyche as being part of my fashion, part of the expression of who I am. And I do think that the way that you present out yourself to the world is kind of a mixture of what you think the world wants to see and who it is that you really are underneath. And so it's just kind of letting that go and experimenting with that. And that's something that you can definitely do, for practicing self-love, is to actually look at your closet and be honest with yourself. What are the clothes that really make you feel happy to wear? And which are the clothes that you put on because you feel like they will take you confidently into an arena, that they will serve you in a certain situation, that you will be able to kind of, blend in almost with the clothes that you'll be wearing here. And so that's something else. The other thing that I put down was that I love my soul for being old, for having lived, for pushing me to keep living. And what I mean by that is I am aware that I have lived before. I have had previous lives. And I feel, and I've felt throughout my life, that messages from previous lives will drop into me when I need them and when I can finally understand them and see them. And that's something that I feel really, really grateful for. I feel very grateful that I'm able to tap into this level of my consciousness whereby I know things not through having had any experience in this lifetime. And that might sound a little bit crazy, but that's really who I am. That is a part of who I am. And it's something that has always been there as well. Again, something that I recognize from happening from childhood. And so it does sound a bit weird. People roll their eyes when you talk to them about it and just say, no, well, I've done this past life regression and I've done this and I've done that. But this is something that really resonates me. I know I've had this experience. I know I've had that experience. I've dropped into experiences in this life and had flashbacks into previous knowledge, into previous experience. And that for me is something that I'm very, very grateful for. It allows me to feel confident about the decisions that I make. It allows me to recognize when I need to cut out some of the more flippant and unnecessary parts of my life and really focus in on the stuff that means a lot to me. Just looking at this talk that we're in now today, when I was kind of looking at it and I was planning it, and I've had these thoughts bubbling around in my mind for the last couple of weeks that I wanted to talk about self-love and where I wanted to go from it. And when I was sitting down today, I realized that I've been so busy recently and so stressed about lots of other things happening in my life at the time. I've got lots of people who are really quite ill around me and I'm trying to be there for them. And it's taking up a lot of time. And I want to spend the time. I want to be there. I want to be present in their lives. But, there's always catch up afterwards. And so the catch up's coming into my evening time. It's, getting up in the morning when I wake up and do my yoga. I'm cutting my yoga short so that I can actually get some of the jobs that I need to get done so that I can still be there for those people that really mean the world to me, and that I want to help and that I want to be there for and that I want to share my energy with, and that I want to be able to help. And then there's a kind of this whole other part of life where you have to get stuff done, and I think one of the things that has helped me with all that is this knowledge that I know that it's important that I'm here with these people right now. It's not me going, oh, I must go and do this. I must go. There's no guilt involved. It's the knowledge that the only thing that is ever really important in this life is the people that you put into. They are your legacy. And so I think this is why I take my job so seriously and my relationships and my friendships so seriously, because I recognize from previous knowledge that having disappointed in a relationship, having disappointed in a friendship, I've been upset too. I've been hurt too. And these are things that matter. These are the things that stay with you. These are the things that on your deathbed, you will be running over in your mind. Those people that you hurt, those people that you wish you could just say sorry to, those people that you should have been there for. You knew you should have been there, but you just couldn't find the time. Something else always came in front of it. And so I feel really grateful for the messages that I get from my soul, from the experience that it's had in previous lifetimes. I feel very, very grateful for all that. So that's kind of what some of the things about me that I like, the internal parts of me. There are other things than the external things that I look at and that I like. Like I've always been grateful for my hair because I don't ever have to do too much to it. I'm not like the best hairstylist. I've always been grateful of my body for being strong and for being healthy. I've always been grateful that I've got pretty good skin. I mean, since having the children, it's gotten worse. But growing up, I had such good skin. I never had to go through any kind of pubescent acne or anything like that. I feel really, really grateful for all that. But those are some of the things that I feel really, really grateful for. Now, to be able to really love yourself truly, honestly, deeply, sincerely, you also need to look at the dark stuff. You need to look, this page is the light. The other stuff is the dark. And I've got another page of that as well to share with you. So this is the part where you kind of look at yourself honestly in the mirror and you say to yourself, this is what you're like. It's okay that you're like this, but this is what you're like, So you have to look at yourself honestly and objectively. It's hard. And you have to begin to love and accept you for the whole person that you are. Not just for the good stuff, not for the stuff that you recognize kind of takes you through and helps you through life, but also for the stuff that's holding you back and that other people might be experiencing as a detrimental part of your character, but rather that you're projecting as a detrimental part of your character. So for me, I recognize that my critical mind often builds my expectations too high for myself and others. This is kind of back about the judgment thing again. I will often question why. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? You know, I don't understand. I don't understand. And then, okay, now I understand. And that's just plain crazy. Or, well, I would never have done it like that. The judgment then comes in. You know, I do have a critical mind. I'm a Virgo. It's kind of part of the parcel of me being who I am. But that critical mind is also very good at slicing apart other people's negativity and being able to find the good stuff to be able to reflect them back. You know, to be able to be critical means that you have quite a fine eye on things as well, and that you are present and aware and very much instinctually aware, for me as well, of what's going on at that present time, at that moment that you're in. So as much as I recognize that my critical mind does often build my expectations too high, my expectations of myself, my expectations of others, my expectations of the way things should be handled, you know, I accept that about myself. I do. I do know that I can be critical, and I do know that, you know, it's not often fair, and that really I should forget those judgments and leave them and just let people be. And it is something that I'm constantly working on. But at the same time, that's very much there. That's very much the person that I am. And good or bad, it is what it is. I can't change that. You know, the way my mind works, and the way I look for answers seems to be initially like through a critical eye, you know, like picking things apart almost. That's what I feel like I do sometimes. And so, you know, that's not necessarily also always a positive point, although, you know, it has enabled me in some other areas of my life. Okay, I know that sometimes my honesty can be hard to take, and I should practice feeling into honesty. This is something that I've learned later on in my life. When I was younger, I would just be honest and open my honest, you know, myself, and open my mouth very quickly, and would find often that, you know, people weren't ready for my truth. People weren't ready to hear what I wanted to say. They weren't ready to hear or accept the things that I could see straight away. And that stopped me from being honest, like honestly honest, I call it. You know, when you just say something because it drops in, because it comes out, and you know, that's another part of who I am. I will just speak from the heart, but I also will speak from the mind as well. And sometimes it gets all very, very confused, and I'm kind of left thinking like, oh God, I've really upset that person, and I didn't mean to. That came out all wrong. And so that's what I feel like I need to feel into it a little bit more. Listen to what's being said, Kirst. You know, don't go back straight in with, you know, either an answer or this is how we could do this, or, you know, I don't think that's the right way. You know, just listen to what it is they're saying and then try and reflect back. So later in life, in the last 10, 15 years, I suppose, I've really been trying to curb that honest reaction, or that honest response, and make it more of a sort of a calculated reaction, which, although it doesn't sound authentic, it enables me to still be true to what I'm feeling and experiencing. It enables me to actually voice my opinions and say what it is that I feel needs saying, but without upsetting too many people. And that's where I feel like it's done me the world of good to have learned that lesson as well, and to keep practicing that, because at least I can still then be honest. Otherwise, I feel like, you know, with the criticism of others, there's a criticism of yourself as well. Now, if I can be honest and open and true towards other people, then I can be honest and open and true towards myself. And that's the kind of the karmic reflection. You know, you what you give out, sorry, you get back in, right? So if I'm giving out criticism, that's what I'm taking back in as well. If I'm being critical of others, then I'm also being very critical of myself. And I know this to be true because I am critical of myself. you know, not in the sense of what you look like, why don't you look like this or that or the other, you know, not in that sort of sense. But am I actually helping? Am I going out there and am I making my mark in the world? You know, it doesn't feel like it sometimes. It doesn't feel like you are anybody special. You know, sometimes you just feel like, okay, I'm just going through the motions. I'm just doing what I need to do. You know, I need to find a way of being able to really express myself as myself, but in a way that that no one else is going to feel challenged by. And sometimes honesty just isn't that calculated. It isn't that way inclined. You know, sometimes honesty is just a blurt out, a off the cuff comment, you know, something like that. But I do know that sometimes it can be hard to take. And so that's what I'm really working on. Um, I drive people crazy with my timekeeping and must accept that it's a trigger for others and respect that. So I'm always late, like always. It's just a bit of a running joke with me. I read recently, though, that, you know, hopeful people tend to be late people. They feel like they can throw too much in their day and they're not realistic. Excuse me. Oh, not realistic about their time frames. And I think I'm definitely that person. I'm not. I'm murder. I really am. Like I drive myself mad with the fact that I will look at my day. I've got maybe 4 hours in a day and I will think that I can do 20 things in those 4 hours. Therefore, I commit to those 20 things. And then I start panicking when I'm not going to finish them, which is usually about 20 minutes in, and I start trying to replan, try to rejig, try to move around, and ultimately it ends up usually with me being kind of late or not having finished something or not having fully committed to something. You know, I know it drives me mad. So I can understand why it triggers other people, because it is, for other people anyway, very much, I think, a feeling of lack of respect whenever I turn up late. It's really not. My whole heart is respecting the fact that I know you're there waiting for me. And I am genuinely on kind of one level sorry that I'm not there with you. But there's another massive part of me that just says, but you're getting there, you know, and sometimes you can't just always be on time. And also, what is time, you know? And so I have all these kind of little voices then defending me, defending my actions. And yet I do know, pardon me, going through a tired time, clearly. I do know that it triggers other people and it leads to a feeling of lack of respect. And so I'm very aware of that. And, you know, always like people like, oh my God, I'm telling you like 20 minutes before you actually need to be there. Most of my family, my husband and my son, surely anyway, they will lie to me about what time it is so that I'm start going. So I kick my ass into gear another step up. And then I'll go and see this clock and they will have said to me, no, it's 8:05 and it's like 25 to 8. And, you know, and I'm just like, oh, for God's sake. They're like, yeah, but mum, if we build a bit of time in, or, yeah, but love, if we build a bit of time in for you, then you won't be late. I then get upset because I feel like you can't make those decisions for me, you know, and then I realize that actually they do, and it works. And thank you very much. So although I know I drove people crazy with my timekeeping, I just can't help it. It's the person that I am. I'm always trying to do too much. And subsequently balls get dropped and stuff. And this is like one of the downsides to who I am. And so I don't know, like, yeah, I need to work on that really. I need to work on my time framing for sure. I feel like I'm getting better, but there's definitely more room for improvement. Um, my wavering discipline drives me mental, but my inner sloth loves it. Okay, so this is my raw, honest truth. I get up every morning between 5 and 5:30 and come downstairs and practice my yoga, all right? I love that discipline. That discipline feeds me. I'm proud of myself. I've started the day the way I want to start it, you know, with my healthy options in mind. I feel like those healthy options permeate through to every decision that I then make throughout the day. However, it is hard getting out of that bed because there is a huge part of me that is saying the whole time, oh, just a couple more minutes. Oh, don't bother. Oh, why are you getting up today? Oh, just don't bother. Just keep lying in bed. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't, you know, it's no one's going to criticize you. No one's going to hate you. No one's going to be upset by you because you didn't get up to do your yoga this morning, for example. Um, And a part of me wholeheartedly agrees with that voice. Is wholeheartedly going, yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one's going to be upset with you if you miss yoga one day. You can catch up tomorrow. You can catch up later. There's plenty of other times of the day that you can be doing this. And it's not true. You know, my inner sloth is busy making all these excuses up for me that just aren't true. And it's that self-discipline, that other little voice, and he's really little. First thing in the morning, he's really little, that's going, come on, just get up, just go. Just get up. Just get one leg out. Just suddenly get yourself up. Just tip yourself out of bed. Just roll. There's this tiny little voice that's kind of beating against the glass of all the other voices, just saying, no, you can do this. Come on, you want to do this. You know you do. That's why you set the alarm every day. You want to do this. Your intention's been set. Do it. But I'm serious when I say the sloth is like 80%. And then there's this other kind of voice that's like, I would say guilt rather than sloth. Like, well, you're not really a yoga teacher then, are you, if you don't practice yourself? You know, it's that voice, which I tend not to listen to and ignore as much as I possibly can. But still, it's there. And then the other sort of 10%, I suppose, is that voice that's going, come on, you enjoy it once you get going. It's not a problem. Just keep going. Just keep pushing yourself. And so that part of me, that wavering discipline part of me, is one of the parts that I kind of almost love to hate, because as much as it frustrates me, there's a huge part of me that loves it and that curls back into the duvet or into the pillow and goes, yeah, just one more minute. It's like the snooze on your phone or on your alarm, isn't it? You should just go, just tap snooze. Just have another couple of minutes. It'll be fine. Fact of the matter is, for me, I usually leave everything until the last minute. So, for example, if I want to be up at 5:30, I'll put the alarm on for 5:30. I haven't got time at that stage to hit snooze or to forget what it is that I need to be doing. I actually need to be disciplined enough to just get straight up and get on, because I've given myself the absolute maximum amount of sleep that I can take that evening, and I'm getting up right on the very cusp of when I need to get up. There's no kind of like little intermission bit. It is what it is. I need to be up and I need to be on it. And yet, yeah, that's kind of one of these hard things to be able to do when the rest of your body's just going, no, don't do it. I'm sure there are people out there that can relate. Then my final thing that I put is, I know that my choice to go at my own pace with things is at the cost of others' want for more for me and them. The result is pressure on both sides. So one of the things that I have had to deal with myself is my wants. It's the balance between money and doing the job that I love to do, right? Because notoriously yoga teachers aren't paid well at all. We're not. And yet I want to be. I want what I do to be able to make me enough money whereby I can seriously contribute to the running of our lifestyle. At the moment, I'm contributing, I'm paying my way, everything's good. What I would really like to be able to do is to make a significant amount of money, like as a residual income really, from doing what I love to do. And one of my choices within this whole idea of self-love and of putting into yourself every day is to wake up and move and grow at the speed that I feel I'm able to go at, right? So that means that I will often step away from pressure situations, step away from things like deadlines and stuff like that, in order to just feel into the moment. And sometimes it's an excuse. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's very beneficial, but sometimes it is an actual excuse. It feels like it, and I know it is. I know it to be so. I should be doing something else. I should be doing the washing or writing my article or my blog or any of those things. I should be doing those things, but I don't, and I just I choose to go at my own pace, and that often can put pressure on, and not just to myself, but up to other people who are waiting for me for things, other people who, like my husband, who is working so hard to be able to provide for everything, and I feel like if I contributed more, if I did something else, then I could financially contribute more, and we would be better off. But it, again, that's a kind of a balance that we all have to make in our own lives. But it's that pressure as well that it puts you under that I feel is negative to kind of, my idea of self-love as well. It's that pressure that I put on myself and that I feel from other people, about my situation and how much work I'm doing and how much I'm bringing in and all those sorts of things. And it's quite hard to deal with sometimes. I find it quite hard that I put this pressure on myself and that other people put this pressure on myself, because to a certain extent, part of me is still going, you're still moving forward. You're still doing everything that you need to be doing. You're committing as you wanted to commit. You're living as you wanted to live. So, which part of this are you not happy with? And then when I look at it face value, I am actually very happy with the fact that I create my life every day. That I don't really want for anything because I don't really need anything. I don't need anything. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I have good food. I have an amazing family. I don't need a lot more than that. In fact, I kind of, my only other thing that I'm constantly working towards is travel. But that's basically it. Other than that, I've got everything that I need to be happy, and I am happy and I'm grateful for it. So, where to go from there? But it's just when you see it can reflect on other people that I think that it gets a little bit, I feel guilt and I feel jaded because of that. So there you go. You've got good sides of me, positive sides, and the kind of a little bit perhaps more negative sides, if you like, the shadowy parts of me, the bits that I'm not so proud of, for example. Being able to look at your own list of those things and really write down and be honest about what it is that you could change will open your eyes so much. It begins to give you an idea of what can be achieved by your sense of self and what it is that, you might like to achieve actually. Like I started with at the beginning, when you feel like there are things that you've been brought into this world with, but you just don't express them anymore, why not? Get into it, get out there, express, and just believe in yourself. So one of the ways that we can express self-love on us, like for ourselves, is by believing in yourself, by looking at yourself as the light that you are and as of the darkness that you are, and believing that this whole person that you see in the mirror or in a reflection, that you feel, that you look around, that person is worthy of love because of the wholeness that they are, because of their entirety. They wouldn't be complete if they didn't have both sides. So you must be able to accept the bad just as much as you accept the good. You must be able to see that. You must be able to accept who you are as being a changing force of nature as well. Somebody that is doing their best this very day, but who will be doing differently tomorrow. That's just the way it is. Even if you're going through the same motions every day, every single day is actually different. Even if you're getting on the same train that you get on every single morning you have done for 20 odd years, then you walk across the same bridge in the same shoes with a similar style of shoe, to what you started off with. And you'll be able to feel then that, that's the kind of person that you are and that you're driving towards being, that authentic part of you, because you've accepted the good and the bad. And once you can accept the good and the bad in yourself, then you can project that on to other people, and you can accept the good and the bad in everybody, because we're all the same. None of this idea of success or money or, financial freedom, anything like that makes any difference. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're a nice person, that's all you need to be. It doesn't matter where you come from, the things that you have. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your sexuality. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter any of those things. None of them matter in the grand scheme of things. You recognize that. And I think that, to be able to accept yourself in your entirety initially is the first step on that ladder of being able to accept everybody else for their entirety, whether you agree with them or not, whether you gel with them or not. It doesn't matter. It's all about just being able to accept and then build into that acceptance a level of tolerance so that you might be able to then grow, and so might they. So something else that you can do for putting into yourself in self-love is you can really begin to look after yourself from the inside out. We spend a lot of money in the West and in the East, in fact, on making the outside look beautiful. But it is imperative that we all begin to look after the insides of our body as well. It's having that value. It's knowing that your body is able to regenerate itself. Pretty much the whole of your body is regenerated over 3 days. You know, that's the cell life. You're made up of 37.7 trillion cells, and they all have a little shelf life, and they all go on to, you know, absorb in all the nutrients and feed you and keep you healthy before they then die. If they're not healthy, they then kill themselves. You know, that's how an ordinary healthy cell works. I think it's apoptosis, it's called, where if a cell begins to malfunction, then it will commit suicide so as not to bring detriment to the rest of the cells around it, to the rest of the organism, to your body, which is fascinating, isn't it? But because of that, you need to be able to learn, or you need to be able to accept, that everything that you put into your body is going to come out in some way or another. Now, if you eat a really, really healthy diet, and say, for example, you're eating a plant-based diet, one of the healthiest known to us at the moment, you're eating a plant-based diet, you don't have a massive amount of inflammation in your body because your body has nothing to be inflamed by. You're not, you're not drinking caffeine, you're not eating loads of sweets, you're not taking on board too much dairy, you're not taking on board meats. Everything begins to move more smoothly. And I know this from my own experience. When I started practicing yoga, I still ate meat. And I didn't think for a very long time that it would be something that I would ever give up. And then when I decided that I wanted to make, my yoga journey, really my yoga life, I went and got qualified in India, and I had a conversation with one of the gurus there, and she made a point that just hit so hard the hamstrings of my heart that I couldn't walk away from it. And it was that, every single living thing on this planet wants to be alive. Its fundamental rights, its fundamental purpose is to be alive. And so what right do you have to take that other life? What right do you have? And so one of the things that got me thinking about was obviously consuming meat. The other thing it got me thinking about was consuming forms of energy, what you consider as energy beings. And it kind of enabled me to look into myself as well as to what I felt like my energetic foods were that I was taking on board. Making a food diary and checking out how I felt after certain things. Like, for example, quinoa and couscous and rice. I have a real sense of feeling clean when I've eaten these foods. They're easily digestible. I can feel that I'm not clogging up in my system. I can feel that my digestive process isn't having to really work hard to break down and digest these grains. And so that's kind of like one of the things that if I want to give myself a vegan day or a spiritual day, or if I am trying to be mindful in what I'm eating that day and eat without meat, then that's something that I give to myself as well. So one of the other things that you can do for self-love, other than putting into the inside of your body, is to put on the outside of your body. Now, for the last year or so, I've been using essential oils to complement my healthcare. I take them as nutrients. I take them to help focus my mind, my emotions, and to support my body physically as well. And one of the things that I've started doing recently, in fact, just over the last 3 or 4 months, is something called aromatic dressing. So oil can permeate through the layers of the skin naturally, not like some of the creams and stuff that we buy. Often they'll leave like a residue on the top of your skin. And having learned about all of this in my anatomy and physiology for my reflexology and for my yoga, and then learning about it through my fascination with cellular responses and cellular health, I decided that actually, one of the biggest organs of the body is the skin. It's constantly protecting me and looking after me and making me feel and look, like a normal human being. And so I need to start looking after it. So I went through my Ayurvedic dictionary, my journal, and found out which oil was good for my skin, for my dosha. And one of them, it turns out to be a sesame seed oil. So I use sesame seed oil now every day on my body, from the tips of my toes all the way up to my face. I use it on everything, and the improvement in my skin has been amazing. I'll then blend some of that sesame oil in with some of the other essential oils that I buy. And depending what it is, it might be vitae, which is like the tree of life, which is very, very grounding. It's the oil of divine grace. So it allows you to let go and experience life as you feel, it should be, basically just living it every day, being very present in each moment, being very aware of what it is that you're cultivating from your day. There are loads of other different oils that you can go into, but aromatic dressing is basically starting from the toes and rubbing this oil up lovingly all over your body. So this is something that I invite you to do naked in front of your body. Get some oil. It can be coconut oil, it can be olive oil, it can be sesame oil, it can be jojoba oil, it could be any kind of oil really that you would want to put on your skin and allow to soak in. So I start from the very tip of my toes and I work all underneath my feet, making sure that I coat all my feet, all my toes, my ankles, coming up into my shins and calves, coming up into my knees, backs of thighs, everywhere gets a good old coverage of these oils. And it's a practice that I started in Thailand. And then I would just wrap like a little sarong around me just to let the oils go in. Now I actually kind of would dress myself like after about 5-10 minutes, because you find in England, because there's no sweat, I absorb the oils a lot more quickly than I did in Thailand. But this aromatic dressing sets me up for the day. Not only do I get to run my hands all over my body, checking everything out, checking out how I feel, checking any aches and pains, checking for any bruises, checking for any needs that might need to be met. Not only do I have all that, but it's also a little bit like the opportunity for me to self-massage myself, to wake up some of my muscles, to really begin to structure or create the way my day is going to go. And I use those oils mindfully because of the uses that they have and because of the outcome that I want for my day. So I've started aromatic dressing. So that's the first thing that I can do. Then coming on from that, the next thing that I might do is like brush my teeth, mindfully brush my teeth. So this involves now me watching where I'm going with my toothbrush, mindfully brushing my teeth, mindfully keeping the toothbrush on the side of the teeth at a 45-degree angle and intimately brushing through and around each one of my teeth and doing it mindfully. So really setting my focus in on this action and really bringing routine into like a ritual, which I love to do. I try to do that as much as I can with like the mundanities of life. Try and make it into a ritual, try and make it something that serves you, try and make it something that you love to do. You're going to do it anyway. It's something that you're definitely going to be doing anyway, so you might as well do it whilst you're enjoying it and getting something else from it. The next thing that I would do then is probably doing my yoga, putting into my self-discipline, breathing, doing my pranayama and meditating, concentrating in on my breath and my brain. But just take a little bit of quiet time for yourself as well. You don't have to do all those things if you don't want to. If it's not the sort of thing that resonates with you, then don't do it. But take the time for you whereby you give yourself the opportunity to run your mind through your body and see how it is today. See if you've got any aches and pains. See if you can think to yourself, why have I got that ache and pain? Why is it that I'm feeling that feeling in my lower hip, for example? Why is it that I'm feeling it in my shoulders and in my neck? What happened yesterday or what's been happening that's caused this? That's something to reflect back on for your own sense of knowing who you are that day. We wake up every day different. Every day is different. You need to know who you are that day to be able to navigate through that day successfully. And so give yourself that quiet time first thing. You can be lying in bed. Your alarm could have gone off and you ignoring the little sloth that wants to say, don't get out, just give yourself another 5 minutes. And you are instead choosing to close your eyes, remain conscious, start at the very, very tip of your big toes and work your awareness along the tips of all your toes. Then bring that awareness down through your toes and into the soles of your feet, being aware of the muscles, being aware of the shape and the size of your feet, being aware of the movement of your feet as you gently begin to bring your feet in and then begin to point your toes away. Now that toe pointing movement is going to engage the fronts of your legs. And so as you breathe in, then bring your attention into the tops of your feet, into the tops of your legs, your ankles, into your shins, into your calves, coming up into the knees. Just become really, really aware of all these body parts, running your mind up from the very tip of your toes, coming all the way up. Any ankle tension? No, that's fine. Come up to your knees, any knee tension where there is that little problem on the right side. Fair enough. That's fine. Okay, I know where that is. How's it feeling today? Yeah, actually, it doesn't feel too bad. It feels okay. It doesn't feel too bad at all. Great. We won't push it, but we know it's there, but it's feeling okay. Great. Okay. You see, already you're beginning to picture in your mind how you are physically. And then you can take your attention and your want to do well for yourself and then put it back into yourself as you do. So you kind of like, say you come across the knee, for example, my knee. Come across my knee. How's it feeling today? Oh, actually, it's hurting a little bit. I think that was probably from all the running yesterday. Okay, so what are we going to do to balance that? Well, when I go downstairs after having my breakfast, I'm going to take that supplement for my knees and, make sure that I massage it a little bit with some oils, that I eat, or I have a cold compress on it if I need to, or any of those things. Just something so that you can recognize that this is a part of your physicality today and that you can support it through this. The next thing that you can do when you are practicing self-love is to take time to really clear out your mind as well as focusing on your body. So by that I mean you spend time on your own, not talking to anybody else about anything, and just go over in your mind whatever it is that's troubling you. Instead of reaching outside of yourself for the answers, go inside yourself and begin to look at what it is that you feel is affecting you or triggering you or making you feel a certain way. Just have a look inside, have a look into your mind and wonder what it is that's done this. What it is that's made you second guess yourself or doubt yourself or feel so much guilt or so much self-loathing. What is all that about? What are the things that are still triggering me to feel like that? What are those things? Take time out every day to begin to run your mind over your mind or run your consciousness around your mind and check that there aren't negative thoughts there waiting to spring up the minute you get tired or the minute something stops to work for you and you feel stressed, any of those things. It becomes then a go-to for these routines of regularity, if you like, where you will recognize something in yourself and you begin to then kind of change yourself to suit that. So for example, my knee, I get up, instead of wearing high heels, I would wear shoes to be able to support my knee. What I don't do is keep pushing on with the high heels, just thinking, oh, well, my knee will just have to deal today because I must wear these shoes. That's not self-love. That's actually conforming to the ego. That's actually saying to yourself, no, actually, moreover than the pain that I'm experiencing and protecting my knee, which is already beginning to twinge, I need to look the part. I need to look the way that I ordinarily look when I go in this outfit on this day to this place, blah, blah, blah. And that is huge in terms of self-love. Movements like that, being able to adjust your day around looking after yourself is a fabulous thing. To be able to let go into looking after yourself and healing yourself, completely let go and get into it, is something that we have never been taught to do and that it's not trendy to do or it hasn't been trendy to do. It's probably a little bit more trendy to do now, a little bit of self-healing. But take yourself in, take your hands, drop your hands down onto your knees. Send your energy out through your arms, into your hands, down into your knees, and just gently massage around there. Same thing if you've got a bad arm or something like that. Take your own hand and feel into your arm. Find out exactly the place that it is where you can feel these sharp pains, and try to work back along the muscle, feeling for anything that's kind of held you up or might be holding up that pain or the nerve, whatever it is. Okay, like, make the decision to do the thing that's right for you, rather than just conforming and going along with the usual same old routine of ignoring what your body needs, ignoring what your mind needs, ignoring what your soul needs, ignoring what your energy and emotional self needs, and just go with what the routine usually is. Like, routines can be so bad. They can be really good as well. But if you're stuck in one and it's not serving you anymore and you keep committing to it, then you're making a big mistake. Just go with what you know to be true for yourself. Number one rule. Something else that you can do that I put down is to go out for a long walk in nature. To be able to connect really deeply with nature, I'll often take my shoes out and just walk around in the grass with my feet bare, and just really be mindful of the feeling of the grass and the earth underneath my feet, the feeling of freedom from not having the constraints around your feet. And when you can really open up to that, I think, when you can really accept yourself as part of the universe and really feel the energy connecting in with that, then you can begin to love yourself as part of the universe, because you are. But you need to accept that first before you can love your part that you're playing in it. You need to be able to accept that you're worthy, and that you are just as you are, and that you will always be just as you are, able to just kind of be a part of here that is significant, and be a part of here that could going to change somebody's life or something. And it's that acceptance of being part of the massive whole that begins to build on self-love, or begins to build your foundation for self-love, accepting that you are an amazing part of this world and that you have a role to play. Love yourself for that. Okay, don't worry about what size you can get into in terms of your clothes. Don't worry about how long your hair is, what color it is, whether you've got the right jewelry on, the right dress, the right designer bag on your arm. Don't worry about any of that stuff, because really it means nothing. And it's always a case of when you're putting all your eggs in one basket and driving forward blindly towards all this materialist stuff, that when you get there, you just want more anyway. So you might as well start cultivating this relationship with yourself and beginning to learn yourself, because you're going to get more out there than you ever got with any of the others. Okay? And it's true, like they say, that you can never truly love another person until you've loved yourself. And it's true, because you don't know what love is until you love yourself. You accept everything. Love is not about controlling. Love is not about changing. Love is not about molding somebody into being what you perceive as your ideal partner. It's about coming across somebody who you really gel with, and on so many levels that it creates a spark inside you, and you feel like, I just want to be with that person all the time. And you get that with self-love as well. You just want to spend time with yourself all the time. What will you think of next? What will you do next? How will that go for you? You're challenging yourself. You're living life every single day. You're living life and you're loving it. So you're loving your life. You're loving who you are. You're loving the person that you are. It sounds pretty good, eh? I mean, everything's happy. Everything's good. Everything's positive. And it all comes through acceptance of yourself as part of the world, accepting yourself as who you are before you got conditioned, trying to bring all that back in, and afterwards, and now, no matter what you've been through, accept everything, all the experiences, all the good stuff, all the bad. Let go of anything that doesn't suit you, doesn't serve you, and then kind of just keep hold, if you can, of any of the memories that will keep igniting your interest to stay on this path of self-growth, that will allow you to really develop whatever it is that, you feel like you need to, so that you can really accept yourself for who you are. And again, learn to love that part again. Maybe it's playing the guitar, maybe it's needle stitch, maybe it's, I don't know, poetry, that part of you that you want to re-explore it. That's what life is for. That is what life is for. Okay. So just got another couple of bits. Making time for friends, very important. Making time for people that love you, that can see the best in you. Real good friends as well, not just acquaintances. People that love you, who have known you forever. People who are, keen to be in your life as much as you're keen to be in theirs. Because it's always such a positive energy swap. Whenever you get anywhere near somebody who is, needing a bit of a pick-me-up, you can often feel your energy drain from that person. But vice versa, when you need filling up, when you want to show yourself some love and you want to get high vibe and you want to recognize yourself as being the most fabulous person, presentation of yourself that you can be, then go and see some really good friends and have a laugh and have a chat about you, and bring it round to you. Just be like, I'm doing this at the moment. What are you guys doing? Well, I've done this, but I don't know about this, this, and this. And, there's so many different ways of being able to communicate and engage with people. And if you're with people that truly, truly love you and accept you for who you are, then it bigs you up enough to be able to accept who you are as well. And I think that's really the crux of this whole argument, is you need to accept who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, And once you have done that, once you've been honest with yourself, once you recognize what triggers you've got, once you've been honest with the people around you as well, so that they know what you're going through, then you'll really be able to start building on the self-love and be able to start thinking better about yourself and more positively, and being able to make decisions that are wise because of the information that that you know within yourself to be true. It's a hard thing to kind of get your head around initially, this idea that you can blatantly just love yourself for who you are, that you don't need to change anything. But look at it like this: you've been changing everything since, say, you were 7 years old, right? So you've been changing everything that whole time, trying to find the glove that fits properly, right? What happens if there is no glove? What happens if you're just destined to spend the rest of your life constantly searching for something that's going to make you happy based on other people's perceptions of what makes them happy? It's crazy. It's a crazy roundabout of ridiculousness, really. Love yourself. Love who you are. Love what you do with your life. Make sure you do something with your life. Make sure you don't just bomb out halfway through, that you begin to think about kind of settling down with a family too young, before you've seen anything, before you've had any real life experience. You're thinking about doing something like that. Have a think about treating yourself compassionately and kindly in your thoughts, not just in terms of what you put into your body, but also the thought processes, the critical thinking, the looking for a way out and then throwing other people in front of the bus. That happens all the time. All these things that you kind of get to when you're being critical of yourself. Forget criticism. Don't be critical of yourself. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself, that you are enough, that you're absolutely fabulous just the way you are. I printed out something here today. I want to read it to you now. You are worthy. You are capable. You are beautiful. Book the ticket. Write the book. Create the dream. Celebrate yourself. Now, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what self-love is. It's acceptance of your worthiness. It's acceptance that you are perfectly capable to do anything that you want to do on your own, by yourself. You are beautiful, no matter what they say, right? No matter whether you're male or female, doesn't matter. You could be transgender, you could be whatever. You could be a monkey in a train suit. But as long as you feel comfortable in your own skin, as long as you've made peace with yourself, then no one else can touch you, because everybody else's comments are just that. They're just comments. They're just random judgments. They're just perceptions of what they're seeing right in this moment. It's not a judgment on you as a person. It's just a judgment on the person they see before them. I'm not saying it's right to judge people, but at the same time, it is only a light judgment based on a very small amount of information. If you'd been talking to me for 3-4 hours, if you were my friend for life, and then you came and you were criticizing me, I think I would take it more seriously than just the people that I might bump into in the pub, or the people that I might be going dancing with later. Don't worry about what they think. Just worry about what you think. Just worry about what goes on in here for you. That's the important thing. The other thing that I think that is really, really important in terms of self-love is feeling love for yourself. So if you're close to your parents, give them a call, show them love, show them that you are thinking about them and that you care about them. Tell them and show them that they are still a massive part of your life and that you don't know what you would do without them. Same thing then goes to like grandparents and uncles and aunts. You know, do a nice thing. Practice compassion. Turn some of the bad decisions that you may have made around. And soon you'll find that the lifestyle that you wanted to lead is just beginning to open up all around you. So you kind of imagined yourself in one position and you're going to end up there in the end, as long as you're positive thought and as long as everybody's working together and you're constantly thinking and moving and thinking and moving and being in the moment. It's amazing. It's lovely. It's beautiful. You know, it really is. So well done, you guys. Because I think when you set about doing anything self-lovey, there's always going to be that time where you think to yourself, oh, this is mental, this is crazy, what am I doing this for? Okay, but persevere. Because seriously, if you can make a list of 50 things that make you happy, and let's say only 5 of them cost any money, you're really going to be using your imagination to create the most beautiful day for yourself. And that there is self-love, being able to recognize and create the most beautiful day for your partner, for yourself, sorry. You know, that's the most important thing, is that the day that you're creating is happy within your own mind. That's the important thing. So there are things that you can do every day to look after yourself and to show your physical body that you love it. There's things like reading books, you know, reading a magazine article that you've been wanting to get around to, playing games, colouring, anything like that. Anything that you feel that you would like to express, try to do. You know, go and buy a colouring book, go and buy some pens and pencils. Express it. That's a part of you that wants to come out. Express it. It's not going to hurt anybody. What are they going to think? But the worst they're going to think is, what is that adult doing colouring? You know? But they won't know, and they don't need to know. It is what it is. They're just that, an adult's colouring. End of. Self-love is about accepting your good, accepting your bad. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about recognizing that you're not perfect, but knowing that it's enough and that just you, the way you are right here, right now, showing up is enough, that it always will be. It's also about not being critical of yourself. It's about stopping looking towards other people for outside validation and looking more towards yourself. It's about being compassionate towards other people. It's about not hurting anybody, mindfully or otherwise, and being able to be clear in your knowledge that you haven't hurt anyone, you haven't injured anybody. You know, the time that you're spending is being spent wisely and positively. It's not being spent negatively in a negative headspace, projecting that out to other people. And I think that's really important, you know, that you're not projecting out headspace to other people. I want to read you an excerpt from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the book of the spiritual man. This is translated by Charles Johnson. He talks about ahimsa, which is the practice of non-injury, which is very similar to self-love, I think. So he says, where the heart is full of kindness, which seeks no injury to another, either in fact or thought or wish. This full love creates an atmosphere of harmony, whose benign power touches with healing all who come within its influence. Peace in the heart radiates peace to others, even more surely than contention breeds contention. So that's what it says on ahimsa, which I think is basically saying that when your heart's full of kindness towards yourself, then you can really begin to project that out towards others. And you'll make kinder decisions, and you'll make decisions based on your truth, and you'll make decisions based on exactly what it is that you want to see, the change that you want to see happen in the world. And that's a very strong feeling. So I think I'm coming to the end of my talk about self-love today. And I hope that you've understood how important it is to start yourself on this journey of self-love, of being kind and compassionate towards yourself, of being able to accept the good and the bad, and knowing that just as you are, you're fabulous, no matter what. Knowing and understanding that your part in this world is absolutely crucial, that without you, nothing here would be the same. Just let that sink in for a moment. Without you, this world would be completely different. People would miss you. Yes. People would come and see and talk about and remember. Yes. But it's what you remember at the end of your life that really matters. It's the thoughts and the visions that flash in front of your eyes as you begin to let go of this life and move into the next. Don't have all those visions be negative. Don't have all those thoughts be what ifs and regrets. Don't have that. Learn to love yourself. Learn to love your life with yourself in it, the way you express your life through yourself. And then really become aware of what it is that you need as an individual to be able to really love yourself and let go completely. Take a moment and just think about how you can start to build self-love into your day. What can you do that will make it easier for you going forward? Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. I really hope that if you've got any questions, you'll comment below. I'll try to get back to them. I also hope that you really think about being less critical of yourself and putting yourself first in situations so that you can begin to express self-love. Accept who you are in all your beauty, weird and wondrous forms that we are. And we're beginning to shine your light out now, knowing that the whole world needs you to be exactly who you are. And if you're not being who you are, then the world just isn't as good, because we all need you. By being yourself, you're putting something wonderful out into the world. And we need that. We need the wonder. Good night, everybody. Namaste.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.